Welcome back to Astrovision, Spirituality, and Tarot. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at a case involving, the wrong place at the wrong time. And we're also going to be discussing the transit that could have potentially played out with this man having his life force energy being taken from him. So the case that I came across and that I found some interest in discussing with you guys has to do with Michael Dean and his death involving an unlawful one. He definitely had an unlawful death, and it was due to some racism being at hand. He was in a sundown town, and if you don't know what a sundown town is, if you're not from the U.S., basically our history here in this country has deep roots involving slavery. Now, a lot of countries have that history and some don't. But in the U.S., the economy and all of those things was built off of the backs of slaves, and it was built off of the back of natives who were also indigenous to these lands. And then with the introduction of colonization and, other people, foreigners coming over here and really colonizing things, taking claim to things and ownership, these people have established towns, these people have established villages and certain boundaries that they have taken a claim to. And the sundown town is one of those representations of their superiority in a sense. It's a representation of that. And usually sundown towns can be located in the southern parts of the United States. And you'll usually find that these towns are heavily segregated and colonized by older, elderly white people and their families. And these people tend to have a strong dislike and a hatred for people who are the descendants of slaves and other people of minorities, of different minority groups who may be of African descent as well. So you'll typically find that they're very unwelcoming. And unfortunately, with Michael Dean, he just so happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Now, I'm not going to dive too deep within his chart. I just wanted to speak on a certain natal placement that can be cautionary out there for those who may also have similar aspects to him. You know what I'm saying? Especially when this transit is to roll around and take play. And the sundown town that Michael Dean was fatally shot down in was Temple, Texas. Now, he's originally from Waco, Texas, from the information that I gathered online. He's from Waco, Texas, and he's born on May 5th in 1991. So that makes him a Taurus sun individual. But an interesting thing that I also noticed that he had was the combination of an Aquarius moon. This can, play out to where he'll be comfortable having a rebellious spirit at heart. So even though he was going into a sundown town, a lot of black people would steer clear of that type of energy. A lot of black people would steer clear of a place like that. But since he has this Aquarius moon and he's also a Taurus, he could be comfortable with having a rebellious heart, and things like that potentially wouldn't scare an individual like this. And one of the big triggers causing, this fatality really has to involve his death taking place on December 2nd of 2019. And the energy transiting at that time involved Jupiter being in Capricorn. So with Jupiter being in Capricorn, that's some debilitated energy. Jupiter is at its fall in its energy because Jupiter has to deal with exploring. It deals with foreign territory as well and being a foreigner. But that Capricorn energy is all about setting boundaries, and it's all about setting structure, and it's an earth sign. So earth signs can be naturally classist, and that can represent some racism. And Capricorn in particular deals with restrictions, and it deals with things being revoked. It deals with the process of things being slower. And it's to be noted that Michael Dean was speeding in this town. This is the reason why he got pulled over. So Jupiter also can represent that, with Jupiter being in Capricorn. Since Jupiter is a fast energy, it's a fire sign, it represents Sagittarius. But since he has in his chart, in his personal natal chart, he has Jupiter squaring his sun and Jupiter squaring Saturn. This could have played out to where at that moment, wherever he was, while he was driving or while he was on the go, he was moving a little too fast. And he could be known for doing that. You know, a lot of people could have a hard time keeping up with him. He could have good stamina and he could be a very physical person, you know, even in a car. And his sun does sextile Mars, and his Mars is in Cancer. And something else to be noted is that he was on his way back to his family. He was picking up a birthday cake for his daughter. So he's a father of 3, and he does have a decent amount of Cancerian energy as well. Now, with that transit coming into play on the day of his death, and his sun sextiling Mars, but him being a Mars and Cancer man, that is potentially the reason why he was rushing in the first place, was to get back to his family. You know, this is someone who is going to take action for their family. They're going to be very active behind things that they're familiar with. And that Mars energy also has to deal with us being impatient. It has to deal with us being physical, but it also has to deal with us being independent and always having to like be on the go. So with this transit coming into play, this potentially just played out with him being at the wrong place at the wrong time. Now, the police officer who is responsible for this unlawful fatality has resigned from his position, you know, within serving the community and being a police officer, but it still is very unjust. It's very unjustful, the situation, and that Jupiter in Capricorn also has to deal with that truth and things involving the truth being blocked. So the potential story of this man very much so is swept under the rug. This isn't one of those national stories that made headlines like Trayvon Martin and Breonna Taylor and, you know, all of the other headlines that really went public. This one is a case that has been really swept under the rug. But the police officer definitely has been reprimanded in his position. He definitely did have to give up his badge. And again, this incident took place in 2019. And it just now, you know, in 2023 in January, has been disclosed. All of the details have been released to the public. Now, one of the details that have not been released to the public is the officer's birth date. So I wasn't able to pull up his chart or really able to pull up anything about him other than his name, and his name is Carmen D. Cruz. And so, you know, he had an administrative leave. He left the department, and he only spent a month in jail. Literally. A month in jail is what this police officer got. You know, them blue-collared individuals, they'll protect their own, so that's something to note about that energy. With Jupiter being in Capricorn at that time on that day, and with Michael Dean having his sun square this energy, you know, this has to deal with him having the unfavorable battle against this energy. With Carmen de Cruz being the police officer, he really is going to represent that Capricorn energy. But with Jupiter being in the fall, he definitely can take advantage of his rule and take advantage of his authority in situations and be over orderly and over rurally. And since it's a sundown town, you know, he could have got trigger happy in that instance because everyone knows what takes place in sundown towns. With him having, you know, the lawful right to detain in the moment, with him speeding and things like that, he could have just took it upon himself to take it a step further with that influence of Jupiter and pull that trigger. But now the truth is slowly being revealed and the details and everything is coming to the surface about what initially had happened. And so Jupiter and Capricorn can represent the truth being slowed, like the process of that, all the details and everything, having to deal with the truth being blocked and revoked in some way. I thought that this was interesting to talk about, and if you guys do have Jupiter in Capricorn and you do have this energy squaring your chart, be careful when you are in situations when the influence of that Capricorn energy is overpowering your Jupiter energy. So you aren't going to be able to outsmart the law in some situations if you have this energy. You're not going to be able to outwit an officer if you have this energy. And especially with him being a Taurus man, that also has to deal with traditionalism. And so this police officer could have just simply saw him as, you know, a regular black man who is up to no good, who was very suspicious, and he thought posed a threat to the community or something, so he surveilled the energy of that man. You know, that is how this can transpire. And I wouldn't be shocked if that police officer has gotten away with doing other sinister things in that town pertaining to not only just black people but minorities in general. So you just have to be careful with this energy. And with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and find it informative and helpful in some way. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.